Among modern internet users, there is hardly anyone who has never tried taking selfies. Millions of such pictures end up in social media feeds. Most of the time, these photos show a happy person in front of a beautiful landscape, a group of friends, or proudly on their own, showing followers what they are currently doing. Amanda Taylor, a young 24-year-old woman, took selfies after committing a gruesome crime. Taylor wanted to show the world that she felt no remorse and that she still does not regret anything. In 2015, the Blue Ridge Parkway, a scenic road over 720 kilometers long in the United States that runs through the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia and North Carolina, was the backdrop for a white Jeep speeding along. Suddenly, it disappeared from view and turned onto another, even more remote road, where there were essentially no houses, no stores, no oncoming cars, and no signs of any kind. The Jeep pulled over, and a pretty woman got out on the driver's side, holding a pistol in her hand. She walked around the car and opened the door on the passenger side, where her boyfriend and accomplice, 33-year-old Shan Ball, was seated. His condition was dire. He would briefly regain consciousness and then pass out again. Amanda lifted her weapon, pointed it at Shan, and openly told him how she had used him, how their friendship was nothing more than a means to an end. After confessing the unpleasant truth about their real relationship, she felt liberated and pulled the trigger with ease. She dragged his body to the roadside, got back in the car, turned around, and drove off in an unknown direction. It did not take long for Shan to be found, and for the police to determine that the man at the roadside was a wanted criminal who had been on the run after committing a massacre with his girlfriend, the 24-year-old Amanda Taylor. Before he was discovered, a serious manhunt was already underway, and law enforcement now realized that Amanda was capable of shooting even her own accomplice. Nobody knew what else this woman on the run might have done. Amanda Taylor was born on the 27th of March, 1991, in Christiansburg, Virginia, into a very wealthy family. Her childhood could have been described as pleasant, had it not been for a rebellious phase in her teenage years. During that time, her family had a great deal of trouble. Taylor and her best friend, Ray, repeatedly drew the attention of the police. They had met when they were 12 years old, became friends immediately, and started spending a lot of time together, getting into various kinds of mischief. In 2005, they ran away from home, got into trouble, and it is unknown how things might have turned out if they had not been caught and returned home. In 2006, Amanda staged an outburst at Christiansburg High School, which she attended at the time. She yelled at the entire class about how much she hated the institution and that one day she would pick up a gun and kill everyone. The teachers could not calm the agitated Amanda on their own, so they called the police. Taylor was taken to the station for disorderly conduct, but that was exactly what she wanted, because she was sick of going to school. Amanda kept having problems. In that same year, 2006, she stole her mother's car and ran away from home again with her friend Ray. The high school girls were caught once more and charged with underage possession of alcohol. Shortly thereafter, they were arrested again for assaulting a young man, who turned out to be Ray's boyfriend, with whom they had some kind of disagreement. No charges were filed against the girls, and they were reprimanded for their inappropriate behavior and released. In 2011, Amanda and some acquaintances were charged with the production of illegal substances. In a twist of fate, it was precisely these substances that would later drive Amanda on a criminal hunt. Thus went the youth of this once promising girl, Amanda Taylor. Her friendship with Ray endured, and together they caused a lot of trouble for their families. At that time, they had little interest in the peace of mind of their parents, because teenagers often do not consider the consequences of their behavior. When Amanda was about 15 or 16, she met a man named Rex Taylor, who would later become her husband. He was 2 years older, and from the moment they met, they were practically inseparable. Friends said they seemed bound by an invisible thread and simply could not be apart. Many people thought they made a truly great couple. Amanda and Rex, as the young woman herself said, had shared but unusual interests. They saw beauty in what others considered dark or evil. The young couple loved monsters and madmen, and often imagined themselves in those roles. Their mutual fascination with criminals brought them closer, and they found they could not live without each other. Rex repeatedly wrote letters to infamous criminals in prison. Whenever one of them wrote back, he would post the response on social media and boast about this unusual acquaintance. He and Amanda amassed a whole collection of items from various crimes and proudly showed them to their friends. Rex was also interested in how the brain of a serial killer worked, so he often watched true crime stories. He even developed something of a friendship with a death row inmate named Paul. Rex and Paul would call each other and text regularly. Taylor changed usernames on social media for her new friend, shared personal stories with him, and in early 2014, she gave an interview about this strange friendship. Amanda became pregnant while still in high school. It is not easy to become a mother at such a young age, to take care of a baby, and to keep going to school. Ultimately, Amanda dropped out to take care of her baby son. After her son's birth, she had a daughter. Her dropping out was confirmed, but that did not mean she became a caring mother who stayed home with the children. Instead, the arrival of her son and daughter served as an excuse to leave school, because Amanda did not really want to be a mother. The birth of her son and daughter merely confirmed the seriousness of her relationship with Rex. The two loved each other and could not imagine being apart. At the same time, they were always fighting, breaking up, reconciling, accusing each other of cheating, and experiencing every kind of difficulty. But there was one problem in this relationship that outweighed all others: medication. The Taylors could have been a wonderful, truly happy family if the relationship had not suffered under Rex's addiction. He became addicted to pills at a very young age. According to Amanda, he tried them for the first time when he was 12, having gotten them from his father, Charles Taylor. Soon, the teenager was heavily addicted, which would later become the stumbling block in his family life with Amanda. Their relationship was a roller coaster. At times, they were nearly perfect together. Then there would be screaming, crying, and accusations. Although Rex was dependent on synthetic substances, he was overall a great, caring man. He loved Amanda and their children, but his bad habit gradually escalated, and the consequences became irreversible. Matters came to a head when Rex drove under the influence of these illegal substances with the kids in child seats in the car. That was the last straw for Amanda. It happened in April 2014. The young woman decided she had had enough. She told her husband that she loved him and did not want to leave him for a second, but that for now he had to go. Amanda was ready to take him back any time if he decided to stop taking pills. Rex had no choice but to return to his father, Charles Taylor. The day before, Amanda had spoken to her father-in-law, urging him not to supply Rex with prescription drugs under any circumstances. She pleaded for his help with Rex's therapy so they could be a normal family again. In reality, however, Charles's house turned out to be the worst possible place for Rex to go. Father and son popped pills like friends, partied, and lived together in the home of Charles's paralyzed father, who had access to prescription medication. Rex helped Charles around the house, and in return received his dose. Rex's addiction grew worse and worse. If he missed even one pill, his whole body seemed to shut down and he would vomit. As Amanda later admitted, her father-in-law, Charles Taylor, was not a bad person. He was kind to her and good to his grandchildren, but he did not care at all about what was happening to his son Rex. Instead of trying to help him recover or free him from his addiction, Charles kept supplying him with pills. Although acquaintances described the 59-year-old as kind and generous and very respected in the community, Amanda blamed him for Rex's fate. At the end of April 2014, Rex died. Their young son was supposed to celebrate his 7th birthday that day, waiting in vain for his father. Charles Taylor discovered his son Rex in the barn. The saddest part is that Amanda's friends, Ray and Johnny, were the first to learn of Rex's death. They lived near his grandmother, and that morning the elderly woman ran into them outside her house, telling them the tragic news. Ray immediately called Amanda to confirm that it was true and to offer condolences. But it turned out that her friend did not even know she had become a widow that day. Amanda called Charles's number and learned the bitter truth about her husband. The inconsolable woman lost control, became hysterical, and could not stop. From that day on, Amanda Taylor was not the same person. Her whole world changed in a second, as though she too had died the moment she learned her beloved Rex was gone. Amanda would have followed her husband without hesitation, but she still had something to do. Her best friend, Ray, stayed by her side to ensure she did not do anything rash. She and Rex had been together every day for 8 years and had separated only a month earlier because of his addiction. They had separated over nothing but knew their hearts would be forever bound. They had 2 wonderful children and were even celebrating a birthday for one of them together. It is impossible to imagine the heartbreak and guilt Amanda felt. All her pain and anger over the loss of her beloved were directed at his father. Amanda blamed Charles for Rex's death because of the pills, while Charles blamed his daughter-in-law for leaving his son during the hardest time of his life when he needed her most. Charles arrived at Rex's funeral with a gun, looking for Amanda, who could not even properly say goodbye to her husband. Rex had long battled depression and pill addiction. This struggle had lasted a long time, and if Charles had not supplied his son with pills, events might have taken a very different turn. Every addiction is an illness, and the decision to seek treatment or not always lies with the person in question. Rex chose not to undergo therapy and knew that by doing so, he was losing Amanda and the children. He could not bear it. The grieving widow mourned for a long time. She did not just mourn, she was also angry. According to Amanda, it was Rex who taught her how to take another person's life. This was a desire that arose in her after his death, and she simply could not move on. Rex's interest in criminals and serial killers had rubbed off on Amanda, so everything the young woman did later, she claimed, was just an excuse to make her late husband proud. Amanda insisted that Rex was her motivation in her darkest moments. Incidentally, the death row inmate Paul, with whom Taylor had become friends, called Amanda after Rex's death and sent her $1,000. So she also thought Paul was a great guy and a family friend, despite his grave crime. Amanda and Rex's shared passion for killers and criminals had a deep effect on her. Their favorite video was one in which teenagers brought guns to school and started a shooting. Most online viewers got goosebumps just watching it, but Taylor found it entertaining. It was clear she had some very dark thoughts and was headed towards something terrible, but no one stopped her. She and Rex had once been obsessed with a crazy movie and imagined continuing its crime spree in real life. But fate had not given them that opportunity. So Amanda decided that, since Rex was gone, she needed a new partner. That partner was Shan Ball. Shan rented a room from Ray and her husband, Johnny, and was even living in their basement. The man had been in love with Amanda for a long time and would have done anything for her, but she was not interested in him in the least. Taylor only used him. Whenever she granted him the slightest bit of attention, she demanded even more from him in return. Amanda enjoyed the fact that she could control Shan and keep him around for her convenience. On the 27th of March, 2015, Ray, Johnny, and Shan were spending time with Amanda because she was celebrating her 24th birthday. It was a very difficult day for her, being the first birthday in 8 years without Rex. She and her husband used to have their own private birthday celebrations, so her friends tried their best to distract her, cheer her up, and perhaps even help her enjoy herself a little. Everything seemed fine until Amanda decided she wanted to visit Rex. Ray and Johnny immediately realized this was a bad idea. They knew she was emotionally fragile at that moment, and that going to her husband's grave would only make things worse. There was also a knife in her purse. Mixing depression, a knife, and her husband's grave could lead to anything. The friends feared Amanda would lose it, either by attacking them or harming herself, which was exactly what happened. Taylor collapsed on Rex's grave in hysterics, pulled out the knife from her purse, and said she wanted to join her husband immediately. It was a good thing that Shan and Johnny managed to grab her arm in time. They forced Amanda back into the car and drove her to her mother's house at around 3:30 a.m. They assumed their friend had calmed down, but as soon as Amanda was outside, the drama began again. She broke free, started wielding the knife once more, and shouted that it was her and Rex's day and they should be together. If anyone tried to stop her, she would not only go alone but take her children with her. At the time, her son was 7, and her daughter was only 2. This did not mean she did not love the little ones. She simply believed in that moment that by doing this, they would all be reunited with Rex. The woman's family members had no choice but to call the police. Amanda was apprehended and taken to a hospital, but due to her behavior, she was transferred to St. Albans Hospital, a mental health and substance abuse center in Christiansburg. She had already been admitted there twice before at a younger age for anger issues. This time, she told doctors she needed help because she might harm herself or others, and that she would kill herself upon release. She even named a specific person, Charles Taylor. Amanda's mother and her friend Ray called the hospital to tell the doctors that Amanda absolutely needed treatment, or else she really would do something terrible. Her family begged the doctors to do everything in their power to keep her at the clinic. However, after less than a week in the psychiatric ward, Amanda was discharged. Instead of inpatient treatment, she was prescribed a bunch of pills to take at home. Of course, she did not take any of them. The young woman called Ray and said she was coming over. As much as Ray cared about her friend, she understood that Amanda was a threat. She called Amanda's mother and stepfather and asked them to pick her up from the hospital, but they did not want her in their home either. During her time in the clinic, they had spoken with social services and secured papers for custody of Amanda and Rex's children. With nowhere else to go, the only option was Shan Ball, who had a crush on Amanda. Everyone hoped that for a while, he would take care of her, especially since everyone else, even her own mother, had turned her away, and Amanda had lost custody of her kids. So it was left to Shan. However, Amanda was harboring a dark plan. Shan, who was smitten with her, happily ran to her side. He even skipped work just to be near this woman, but their partnership would bring nothing but misery. When Ray found out that Shan and Amanda were planning a trip, she warned her friend about potential problems, but the man convinced her that he and Taylor were only going to his parents' house. On the 2nd of April, 2015, Shan Ball and Amanda spent the night in a motel, and on the 3rd of April, they really did drive to his parents' house so Shan could pick up some clothes and personal belongings. His mother said later that the two were in a great mood and that Amanda seemed very nice, though they hardly spoke. After the couple left, Shan's stepfather discovered that 2 guns were missing from the gun safe. He noticed it by chance because the drawer was apparently not locked properly. Shan must have taken the weapons and failed to close the drawer. Then, the young pair set out to put their mutual plan into action. Since Ray had confiscated the knife Amanda had threatened people with on her birthday, Shan bought her a new one. This weapon would later be used in the terrible crime. On the 4th of April, around 9:30 p.m., a woman named Ruth, who was Charles Taylor's neighbor, went to his house to look after his paralyzed grandfather. Just moments later, she ran out in a panic and dialed emergency services. Ruth told the operator she had seen blood everywhere as soon as she turned on the living room light in her neighbor's house. The initial investigation into Charles's death was slow because the police had few leads. They checked Taylor's acquaintances, but could not find anyone with a motive or the intent to harm him. That same night, the phone rang in Amanda's mother's house. It was the kind of call no mother ever wants to receive. Amanda was on the other end, apologizing for everything she had ever done and saying she loved her very much, but that she had something terrible to do. Her mother, frightened, did not understand a thing. She had seen her daughter just that morning, having driven her to the supermarket to buy Easter baskets for Amanda's children because the next day was Easter. Now Amanda was calling, saying strange things. Her mother pleaded with her to come home to Christiansburg so they could work something out, but Amanda refused, explaining that she and Shan were heading to Pittsburgh. That was not the only call Amanda made that night. She also called her mother-in-law, Rex's mother, Melissa, to tell her she had done what she had to do. Melissa reminded Amanda to think of her children and not do anything foolish, to which the young woman replied that she would probably never see her kids again. Melissa already suspected what Amanda meant. She begged her not to hurt anyone else and to surrender to the police. Then she heard a mocking laugh and Amanda saying she would shoot her if the police tried to apprehend her. Shortly after these calls, security cameras caught Amanda and Shan buying handgun ammunition at a store, then fueling up at a gas station. They spent the night at a motel, already on the run, because everyone knew who had attacked Charles Taylor's house. In reality, Amanda Taylor had tipped off the police herself. While she was on the run, she posted photos and updates about her crime on social media. Her prolific posts allowed investigators to track her and led them straight to the culprit when she least expected it. On a spring day in April 2015, around 3:27 a.m., Amanda and Shan arrived at Charles Taylor's house in Virginia. The number 327th referred to Rex's and Amanda's shared birthday, the 27th of March. Initially, the plan was to use a knife as the murder weapon. Rex's widow wanted her father-in-law to know it was her who had done this, and to feel both physical and moral pain. Shan hit the 59-year-old over the head with a crowbar. After he collapsed, Amanda picked up her weapon and started stabbing him, plunging the knife deep into Charles's body. She stabbed him a total of 31 times. The crime scene was unbelievably brutal. There were blood spatters everywhere, including on the pictures on the walls, and the sofa on which Charlie lay was soaked in blood. Amanda did not stop there. She did something even more horrifying. She took a photo of herself next to the body and posted it on her social media account, declaring she had a good reason to stab her father-in-law because he had destroyed her husband with addiction. She admitted she had not been the perfect wife, but this was the last good thing she could do for Rex. She asked the police not to look for her because otherwise someone else might die. She just wanted to reach Rex in peace and find rest. She also reached out to a crime blogger friend, asking him to publish her selfies that showed Amanda in front of Charles Taylor's lifeless body, still holding the bloody knife. Shocked, the blogger refused to post the pictures and turned them over to the police. Having just tasted blood, Amanda Taylor wanted more. After disposing of Charles Taylor, she and Shan fled. They escaped the crime scene without being noticed and headed toward Tennessee, spending the night in a cheap hotel in Bristol and continuing onward the next morning. Amanda and Shan quickly realized they were running out of supplies. They had no money, no food, and only a little gas left. Taylor gave her accomplice two options: kill as many people as they could to get money and valuables, or turn themselves in to the police. Without money, they would not get far. She was fully prepared to commit a massacre. At that point, the accomplices stopped for a break and to stretch their legs. Not far from the road, they saw two teenage girls traveling with their families for the holidays. Amanda drew Shan's attention to them and suggested it was the perfect moment to take action. She approached the girls and led them to the Jeep, planning for Shan to attack them. However, he refused to touch the teenagers because he did not want to further disappoint his mother. Apparently, he was very troubled by what he had done to Rex's father and could not bear the thought of committing more crimes. His reluctance infuriated Amanda, who climbed back into the Jeep and sped away recklessly. The young woman was beside herself with rage. She recalled all of Shan's talk before the murder and realized it had all been lies. He had boasted of being a former Navy Special Forces soldier and a combat veteran, but in truth he was a quiet, timid man who simply felt drawn to her. By that moment, he was in the passenger seat, having already written a farewell letter to his mother, swallowing pills to numb himself. Amanda had a bottle of anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication in her bag, given to her by the hospital. Shan took it out and drank the rest. At first, Amanda did not realize what was happening until she spotted the empty pill bottle on the car floor, which made her even angrier. She regretted getting involved with such a weakling. She then drove the Jeep onto the deserted Blue Ridge Parkway on the border between Virginia and North Carolina, looking for a place where no one would interrupt her. Amanda pulled over, picked up her gun, walked to the passenger side, and told Shan she had only been using him for the car, the money, and the gun he had stolen from his stepfather. After telling him exactly what she thought of him, she fired at his face. She then pulled his body out of the car and left it by the roadside, took a cold-blooded photo of his face, turned the Jeep around and drove off. Amanda felt inwardly satisfied that she had disposed of her accomplice. The only thing she did not know was that Shan Ball had survived and would soon make a statement. At the same time, Taylor tried to cement her image as a cold-blooded psychopath by sending more emails with creepy pictures of her deeds to the crime blogger, who passed them on to the police. Amanda bought a disposable phone and repeatedly called the blogger to get updates on her own case. By then, security camera footage from gas stations along the highway helped the police pick up Taylor's trail. She was spotted driving in North Carolina. It was the blogger who talked Amanda out of going on a shooting spree in town when she called him again. Finally, the police set up a spike strip to stop her car, and officers took her into custody. The traffic police pulled the suspect out of the car and handcuffed her. She wore a smug expression, almost proud of what she had done. The young woman was annoyed by the way the officers handled her, complaining that they did not let her park or unbuckle before taking her down. She demanded respect. In the interrogation room, Taylor acted as though she did not care about anything. She waived her right to remain silent and confessed to the massacre of Charles and Shan. However, when Amanda learned that her accomplice Sean was still alive, she deflated a little. It turned out she was not as good a shot as she thought. The bullet went through the man's jaw, knocking him out from the pain, but not causing lethal damage. The following revelation was chilling. Amanda told investigators she wanted the death penalty because she had tried to take a life. But when formal charges were brought against her, she pleaded not guilty regarding the death of her father-in-law. Doing so meant facing a trial, which was precisely what she wanted, as it would give her a chance to become famous and tell the world about her crimes. The accused stated she had felt happier than ever since Rex's death while stabbing the screaming Charles. She felt thrilled to unleash all her pent-up hatred, anger, and negative emotions on him. Amanda compared the act of killing her father-in-law to a happy memory. Ultimately, Taylor said she felt absolutely no remorse for what she did to Charles Taylor. She had done what she had planned from the very first minutes after Rex's passing. Stabbing Charles in the heart was as exciting as riding a roller coaster for the first time. The jury needed only 30 minutes to declare Amanda Taylor guilty of the premeditated murder of Charles Taylor. She was sentenced to life in prison. The judge called her the epitome of evil, which pleased her. Shan Ball recovered and accepted a plea deal that gave him a 60-year prison sentence, to be suspended after 41 years. Under the deal, he remains behind bars at the Craigsville Correctional Center in Craigsville, Virginia, while Amanda serves her time in another facility. Her best friend continues to manage all of Amanda's social media accounts. Together with her husband, Johnny, Ray looks after Amanda's son and daughter. Rex's mother, Melissa, said it was very painful for her to hear Amanda and others blaming her son. She said that despite his faults, her son was a kind, considerate, and caring man. Melissa was very close to Rex. The night before he died, they spent 4 hours together, during which he shared that he was a bit lost in life but also in high spirits. This made it even more difficult for his mother to cope with his death. She even sought psychological help. Several years have passed since the crime, yet true crime programs still recount the horrifying details of the case. Amanda Taylor has long been serving her sentence in a correctional facility, and for Rex's mother, the nightmare is far from over. The constant attention and misinformation her daughter-in-law spreads about her son only deepen her despair. Melissa said that because of Amanda's stories, many people think her ex-husband and her son were bad people, but that is not true. She insists that Amanda's stories are full of lies, made up to justify her own atrocities. People who knew Amanda and Rex say that Rex loved his father and would never have allowed his death to be so awful, nor would he have allowed his wife to resort to violence. It is also true that not everyone interested in true crime becomes deranged. In Amanda's case, her unusual hobby seems to have become an obsession. Amanda Taylor recently appealed her conviction and lost. She says she plans to appeal all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. Apparently, life as an inmate is not as joyful as she had imagined. When a loved one dies of his own choices, one tries to find someone to blame. Many people cannot accept that it was the deceased's personal decision. Amanda Taylor decided to punish the person she saw as responsible for her husband's death with her own hands. She condemned herself to life behind bars and robbed her children of a mother. Thank you for watching, and please take care of yourselves.